everybody. I'm Hillary Atkin from the Atkin Report, and I am delighted to welcome Lauren Hadaway and Isabelle Fuhrman from the feature film The Novice to this edition of Hillary's Happy Hour. Lauren and Isabelle, how are you doing?
Doing good. Excited for this film to finally come out after what has been a 4.5-year journey. So I'm ready.
I would mirror that statement. Yes, very excited.
Lauren, you wrote and directed the film, which we're going to mention comes out December 17th from IFC Films, based upon your own experiences. So tell us more about those and how you developed the story.
Yeah, well, I mean, I come from a small Texas town, and rowing is kind of a bougie sport, as I would say. And I kind of walked on to my team. I got a flyer in the mail, and just happenstance walked into the team, and it consumed 4 years of my life, and I was totally obsessed. And so my first career is actually in post sound. And when I decided to make the transition into writing and directing, I was really thinking, what could be my first film, a story that only I can tell. And it's this experience I had with rowing. So, you know, when it came to writing this, I essentially took 4 years of my rowing experience and 10 years of coming of age and compressed it down into a year and wrote The Novice. So that's where that came from.
Well, Isabelle, you play a college student who's absolutely obsessed by rowing, and we see that from the beginning when she's in her first class with her other potential teammates. So talk to us about your character in The Novice.
Like the best novice of all of us. The best novice. Shouldn't be stressed about school. You're the smartest in our high school. I'm not stressed about school, and I work the hardest. There's a difference. Relax.
Alex Dahl is a very ambitious and meticulous and kind of wildly, I would say, obsessive young woman who really kind of attacks things in her life with a really strong veracity, whether that's school or rowing. And rowing is something that kind of seduces her when she enters her university. And, you know, they sort of have this, you know, clunky beginning, beautiful relationship that kind of melts into something toxic as they get deeper and deeper into it. Yeah, it was really an honor to play this part that Lauren wrote. I mean, it's like a dream part that every actor dreams of playing. And yeah, I mean, it was a wild ride being able to step into Alex's shoes for our shoot and really kind of myself become obsessed with rowing and dive into that process.
Well, I was going to ask you, because the role is so physically demanding, how did you prepare for it, and how long did it take? What was your training regimen like?
We had 6 weeks before we started filming, and Lauren made it very clear after I met her that there was no double, there was no person that was going to be rowing in the movie for me, that it had to be 100% authentic. And so I was immediately kind of, from the time that she cast me, put in with a coach rowing every single morning in Marina Del Rey. And I was kind of like Alex. I was waking up at like 4:30 in the morning, driving to the marina, you know, getting in the boat and rowing for 3 hours. And then as we got closer to the shoot date, it became rowing for 3 hours, having a 1 hour break, getting back on the water for another 3 hours. And then towards the end of the day, I would go and work out with a trainer to kind of help my physical stamina, as well as, you know, build up muscle. So I looked like I was actually, you know, a rower at the same time. A big thing too for me was being able to lift that boat at the end of the movie. That was something that I really wanted to be able to do. Now I wouldn't say I did an amazing job, but I was able to hold it for long enough to get that shot, you know. But all of that really took extensive physical training. I mean, it really kind of helped, though, my performance, I feel like, because my hands were literally bleeding on a daily basis. I had, you know, blisters just like Alex did. I was incredibly sore and exhausted, and it really kind of put me in the mindset of what it means to kind of physically break yourself to that point for something that you love. And I really got to become obsessed with rowing in order to get into this character, and also for this film. And it's something that I actually haven't done since we wrapped the movie, because I think it was a very intense relationship. It kind of exploded and fizzled and died.
Well, I think you needed some recovery time. But Lauren, this is your first feature film. You've already received acclaim for it, including winning the top narrative prize at Tribeca. But what was your experience like shooting it and working with Isabelle and the other actors?
I mean, our first week was shooting on the water, and anyone who kind of works in the industry knows that there's three things that are the worst things to possibly shoot with: water, animals, and children. And we have two of the three in this film. And my first ever week as director was water week, which is an absolute nightmare, as you can imagine, because there's at times we had a dozen boats that are all coordinating. You have 4 or 5 boats in the shot. You have a taxi boat, a safety boat, a light boat, a sound boat, a houseboat with all the people on it, a camera boat. You have all of these boats, and at one point the city actually opened the dam to where we were shooting, and the water was sucking everyone down this river. And we're shooting at night, and it's right like the day after we wrapped shooting on the water, it started snowing. It's freezing cold. If the boats that they're in, like the singles, Alex, Isabelle, and everyone else, like if they tip, they're very easy to tip. It would be multiple hours to reset in an independent film budget. Losing 2 hours would have been an absolute disaster. Like especially for the end, the final race, we shot that over 3 nights. And we got exactly 1 shot of everything that we needed. You know, frame in either direction is useless. And if anything would have gone wrong, more wrong than it already did, it would have been a disaster. So it was very stressful, to say the least. And the first week I was so focused on just getting the sort of logistics and coordinating, because no one else knew how to row. No one else knew anything about rowing. And Isabelle just brought it, and she had the training and brought that. And then when it came to shoot, you know, we shifted to shooting everything else, the dialogue scenes. I mean, it was a little bit scary because you're going from chaos, it was like you're at war on water, shooting these action scenes, to going to these more intimate dialogue scenes. But I think, you know, kind of being in the trenches with Isabelle, we've developed a real trust. And by the end, I love telling the story, but there was this scene that I wrote and I had it in my head for 2.5 years. And one of the last things we shot is this emotional scene in the bathroom. And I had this image in my head of like, you know, you don't give actors line readings, but it's like, I pictured the scene, the other character, you laugh and there's a tear on your cheek. I want you to do that. Like, I've had this in my head for 2.5 years, Isabelle, I know you can do it. And she did it. Boom, 4 takes, boom, 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 laugh, tear on the cheek every single time. So it was incredible, like the best possible experience I could have had, I think, you know, making a first feature film. So survived, barely.
Well, Lauren, when you look back on your real life experience going through a similar situation, what did you learn from that? What do you take forward from that into your life and your career?
Well, I think, you know, 4 years of doing that, I woke up every single day, you know, 6 days a week for 4 years at 5 a.m. And was practicing 20 hours a week. And on top of that, I was double majoring, I was interning, I was working, I was very active at clubs. I was extremely overextended. It didn't feel that level of exhaustion until shooting The Novice, ironically enough. But like, I think it's the cliche, it's the character building, the resiliency, being able to do that and survive that. I mean, it put me into a dark place. And I think hindsight looking back, you know, learning, part of growing up is learning when to quit and when to kind of move on and say enough is enough. Didn't really learn that in college until I graduated and had to stop. That's kind of how it went. But yeah, I mean, that resiliency certainly has benefited me kind of going into my first career, going into getting this film made, having post-production during the pandemic, finishing this film in my kitchen. You know, the world is ending. So I think that certainly has helped me get where I am.
You're obviously very driven, and congratulations on getting this film done through all of these challenges that you faced. I want to ask Isabelle, as we wrap up, you know, this is a sports film, it's a coming of age drama, but what do you feel is the message or the messages that you would like audiences to take from the film?
I think the big message of this movie is truly that true success and achievement is a decision that you have to decide for yourself. You've gotten to. With Alex, you know, we see a story about a young woman who really is at this time in her life where prior to the film, she was kind of forced to stop in her school, in her high school. And throughout the film, we watch her grow into someone who's able to understand that she has reached a certain level of success for herself at this moment, and that it's time for her to take a step back and stop. So I hope that people kind of take away this message of almost restraint and self-love, of being able to look at what you've achieved and say like, okay, I did it, and possibly to listen to those people around you, not all the time, because I don't think that's necessarily healthy either, but you know, everyone in Alex's life is telling her that she should relax, that she's doing a great job and she's trying her best in the whole thing. And it's very hard to hear that when you are, you know, kind of blinders on going towards a goal. But I really hope that people kind of take away the message that, you know, you're the only one who can really hear that and listen to that. And you're the only one who can tell yourself that you've done a good job.
Well, I'd like to wrap up our happy hour by saying you both did an amazing job. And I want to lift a glass to you, Lauren and Isabelle, and to the success of the Novice.
Thank you. Thank you so much.